It's week 4 of this Prismatic Draft League season. It feels like the season has been flying by so far. Somehow we're very nearly at the halfway point in the regular season already. And it's been a rough start for the Toronto Rockslide. 1-2 so far. A win in week 1 and not since. I've definitely thought about making some changes to the team. I have made one. You'll see in a moment. But I've thought about doing something more drastic. However, I don't think the team is necessarily the problem. I think it has some issues that probably run deeper than I can fix within the trading rules of this league, but especially looking back at the footage for last week, there were some pretty clear misplays in both of the games that I lost. And I don't mean to take anything away from my opponent with that, but I definitely think that most matchups so far have been winnable if I play better, and that's probably where my focus needs to be instead of changing the team. So, trying to lock in, trying to do better. That is the theme as we head into week 4. Let's take a look at the standings. And despite my doom and gloom a moment ago, the Toronto Rockslide actually are in a tie for the last playoff spot right now. Of course, there is still a majority of the season yet to be played. We're going to have to do better, I think, to get there in the end. But really not sinking into a pit so far. Of course, it's still early enough. Very few teams are. Every team here still has a chance to make the playoffs. But we are still there in the middle of the playoff fight, as a few teams run away at the top of the standings so far. The Esper, Staff United, Pendragon United, and the Ogres, all undefeated. We've played one of those teams already. We will play 2 more in the back half of the season. But for now, sitting there in the middle of the standings, just trying to lock in and keep working our way up. And like I said, I have made one trade this week. It's not anything drastic, but there is sort of a small marginal one. I have dropped Lanoon and picked up Ninjask. I think Ninjask brings a few support options to the table that are valuable for tying some modes together for my team. Granted, I did say something pretty similar about Lanoon in the draft recap, but I can just say it now. It was Simple Beam. I wanted Lanoon to click Simple Beam into things like Quiver Dance Volcarona, Coil Zygarde, and Shell Smash Blastoise. However, for the last couple weeks, I kind of forgot I could do that. It actually might have been helpful in week 3. And looking at the rest of my matchups, I just don't see an opening to pull that tech off. Lanoon doesn't have a whole lot of stats, and all of my remaining opponents are able to put out a lot of pressure from turn 1, so I don't think there's really a line to pull off the Simple Beam play with Lanoon, especially with Lanoon having a target on its back because it can click Belly Drum at extreme speed. So Simple Beam could have been fun, but we're not going to get a chance to pull it off this season. And instead, like I said, Ninjask, I think, is able to bring a few different support options beyond what Lanoon can do that complement my team a little bit better. It's certainly not an every week Pokemon, but hopefully we'll get at least a couple of chances to explore what it can do to create openings for its teammates over the remaining weeks. But it won't be this week. I am not bringing Ninjask this week. We'll see what happens in the second half of the season. This week the opponent is the Alaskan Absols. Here's their team: Single Strike Urshifu, Arcanine, Goodra, Tapu Bulu, Virizion, Magnezone, Dubwool, Salamence, Gyarados, Dragalge, and Beldum. And it's actually a very hard team to build for, at least with what I have, because my team relies on a lot of... the opponent's team is very tanky and well-balanced. They have Fire, Water, Grass. They have a couple of strong Dragon types. They have Fairy Dragon Steel as well. They have a lot of bulky, tanky Pokemon that are hard to remove quickly. And they have 3 different Pokemon with Intimidate. And a lot of my team relies on fast disruption and fast, hard-hitting physical attackers that can be intimidated. There is no clear amulet in Generation 8. I have the Volcarona, which is threatened by the max airstream that we've seen this team click often from Salamence and Gyarados, as well as rock coverage on things like Tapu Bulu. The Blastoise obviously has a target on its back and is up against Tapu Bulu, Virizion, and Magnezone. Plus, just like Blastoise sweeping is pretty hard to pull off when they can throw Assault Vest Goodra at me, or Gyarados is just really tanky and hard for Blastoise to remove. So everything, all the basic modes on my team, they have some kind of pretty straightforward counter. And I think there's a good chance that we'll see at least a couple of the Grass and Electric types in this matchup. And then the Gyarados is pretty hard for my team to deal with, being massively threatening into Blastoise and Volcarona. It is itself threatened quite a bit by Regieleki, obviously, but Regieleki then doesn't have good coverage into either Grass-type or Magnezone or Dragalge. So, well-rounded team, hard to find openings in it. I haven't even really talked about the Urshifu, but that's always an offensive threat. But I have something that matches up pretty well into the Urshifu. And I am building toward one specific win con this week. I do have a Pokemon that I think can find some openings against this team, and hopefully play sort of a patient setup game and put the team on its back. And so I am sort of going back to basics in this tough, well-rounded matchup, and I'm building around a tanky Gigantamax Pokemon that I drafted with a high pick in the draft, and that I really need to put in work this week. That's right, the first Pokemon in this builder is Alchemy, and I am taking inspiration from some old Azurbe Chadots teams and running an Acid Armor, Calm Mind, double setup Alchemy. Draining Kiss is the only attack isn't ideal. I would love to have Mystical Fire for some coverage into the Magnezone, but with 2 setup moves, something has to give, and so here we are. This Alchemy is full of bulk. The HP EVs are meant to take advantage of Leftovers recovery. I have Aroma Veil, which is very convenient. That means that Alchemy can't be taunted or encored or any disruptive stuff like that. I don't know if they have an encore user on this on the Absols. I don't think so, but they do have taunt users, and they will not be able to taunt Alchemy. It is Gigantamax Alchemy. I don't know how likely it is that I Gigantamax it, but I don't really have one dedicated Dynamax target this week, so it definitely could happen. And Alchemy can give itself a little bit more recovery with, what is its move called? G-Max Finale, I think, if I get the chance. Plus, it just looks awesome, turning into that big cake, so, you know, maybe if I get into a winning endgame, I'll have to do it just to show it off. But Alchemy is making its season debut. It was my second round pick. I'm not too bothered about not using it until now because I was just going for a low tier value pick while I kind of stalled on some other decisions. But it is finally making its debut now, and we're going to see what it can do. I like Acid Armor a lot into this opposing team because a lot of their offense is on the physical side. That said, Alchemy is significantly threatened by Magnezone and Dragalge, and annoyingly, there's a lot of incentive to bring Magnezone because it's strong into a lot of my team. And Alchemy could also have issues with Goodra depending on what coverage it runs. But Acid Armor should be useful for sitting on the field in terms of in front of a lot of the rest of their Pokemon, like Urshifu. Obviously, Wicked Blow crits bypass the defense boost but are resisted, as well as things like Arcanine, Gyarados, and Salamence. And again, they can't taunt Alchemy, so that's pretty nice. That said, I need a lot of supports for Alchemy, and in particular, I need to be able to threaten Magnezone and Dragalge. Those are the 2 biggest threats. And so one Pokemon that complements Alchemy very nicely in this matchup is 10% Zygarde. I really didn't think that I would be running Choice Band Zygarde all of the first 4 weeks, but here we are. I actually was looking at maybe a different kind of Life Orb set or something this week, but then I decided I wanted a Jolly Nature to outspeed Virizion. Virizion is the opponent's fastest Pokemon, so outspeed anything that they have before speed control. My opponent likes to throw off max Airstreams, but at least before that, Zygarde can outspeed anything. But for that, it needs a Jolly Nature, and then I don't trust its damage, so I went back to the Choice Band after all. But it's fine, I think, because Zygarde has certainly 4 attacks worth bringing here. Like I said, I don't really have a dedicated Dynamax target, so I think there's a very good chance that Zygarde will Dynamax in at least one game. I think it's probably the most likely Pokemon to Dynamax. And with that, I can throw off Max Quake and Max Steel Spike to further boost Alchemy's defenses, get that set up a little bit more efficiently, and help Alchemy stick around on the field. But otherwise, I have 1,000 Arrows. My opponent, they have a couple of grass types, so they do have resist for this, but 1,000 Arrows is a massive threat into both Magnezone and Dragalge, both of which are weak to ground, Magnezone doubly so, and both of which are very threatening to Alchemy. So a lot of synergy right there. And if Magnezone runs an Air Balloon, it's still going to be hit by the 1,000 Arrows, because that one ground attack can do that. I do have to watch out for Zygarde getting intimidated. I think I'll just have to live with that to an extent. But even if I just, pressure Magnezone out in the early game and create an opening to get some setup on Alchemy, even if I Dynamax Zygarde after an Intimidate and I just go for the defensive boost with its max moves, there are ways that I can make this worthwhile, even with the Intimidate. But I would like to see Zygarde doing big 1,000 Arrows damage if possible. Outrage gives it a way to hit most other targets, so like Virizion doesn't really want to take an Outrage. Goodra certainly doesn't want to take an Outrage. Obviously, I don't have control over my targeting, but I don't really trust Scale Shot's damage to begin with, and especially with all these Intimidates running around. I'm more likely to click 1,000 Arrows, but I'll take my chances with Outrage if I have to. Breaking Swipe gives me a way to mitigate physical damage from all those strong physical attackers that my opponent has. Probably not very likely I click Breaking Swipe, but might as well have the option to enable Alchemy to set up in front of things like Gyarados and Salamence. And then Iron Tail I like mainly for the max steel spike, but it also is the only good coverage that the Zygarde has into Tapu Bulu. So yeah, might as well keep that around. Zygarde, like I said, here to ideally throw off 1,000 Arrows. It has a few other options, but it's meant to offensively complement Alchemy, pressure out the main Pokemon that are trouble for Alchemy, give Alchemy openings to set up, and it can also help with the setup itself by Dynamaxing and using those defense boosting max moves. Next is Weavile, keeping with the theme of pressuring Magnezone and Dragalge, which is again something I took very seriously in the builder. I thought about a couple different candidates for the Focus Sash this week, but I do like having the Focus Sash on Weavile because then I can potentially take advantage of Pickpocket before Weavile goes down. Once its item is gone, if it's hit by a contact move, it can steal an item from another Pokemon. It's a little bit niche. Maybe it's not that valuable here. Maybe I'd rather have a Life Orb, actually, and put the Focus Sash on somebody else. Actually, we'll think about that before we play, but right now my instinct is to give it another go. I believe this Weavile is also... It's at least EV'd to be faster than Salamence. I don't know if it's faster than Virizion. But I also was avoiding speed ties with these Pokemon. I will check before the game which is faster. I think Zygarde is 1 point faster than Weavile, and then I think that means they're both faster than Virizion. I might have some part of that wrong, but Weavile is able to get to that speed threshold with an Adamant nature, as long as I commit the 252 speed EVs. So not much reason not to do that. I still get the Adamant nature damage. I will think about switching to Life Orb, because there definitely is another candidate for the Focus Sash. Otherwise, Weavile is here to do two main things. One is, again, threaten Dragalge and Magnezone, make sure I have another Pokemon that denies them free opportunities to get in and attack Alchemy. Triple Axle is very threatening into Dragalge, and it also has the benefit of being very threatening into Goodra, which can also give trouble to Alchemy. And also the two grass types, Virizion and Tapu Bulu, which are harder for Zygarde to deal with. So Triple Axle has very powerful coverage into this matchup. Brick Break is my super effective attack into Magnezone. It was that or Low Kick, and Low Kick doesn't work at all on Dynamaxed Pokemon, so it's not great in this format. But then the other thing Weavile is here to do is just have a strong Ice Shard. So if my opponent is going crazy with max Airstreams and in danger of running away with the game, Weavile has that super effective priority that it can click into Salamence, or at least like strong priority into something like Gyarados. And potentially it can save the game at the last moment. I figured I needed the priority somewhere on this team. I do have other speed control though. I do have Regieleki here once again. I haven't been loving Screen's Regieleki this season, but I do think this matchup is a good one for it because, again, my game plan is focused on setting up the Alchemy, and to do that I have to take hits on both sides of the spectrum from Pokemon that are strong, but probably not all that boosted, and only hit so hard to begin with. Like, I think the screens can make a real difference against Pokemon like Salamence, Gyarados, Arcanine, maybe even Goodra. So I think it's worth having them here. Regieleki with 252 speed EVs and a modest nature is faster than +1 Salamence, so this also gives me a little bit of counterplay to their max Airstream game plans. If they get to +2, then they're outrunning everything, of course, but I do have an opening to click Electro Web if I bring Regieleki in against +2 Salamence or +2 Gyarados. I can also Thunderbolt the Gyarados. Pretty straightforward Regieleki set. It has a little bit of speed control, but also I just wanted to set screens for Alchemy. The last two Pokemon I'm a little bit less certain about. One of them is Mienshao. Once again, I was thinking about how to keep up pressure on Magnezone here. I wanted multiple Pokemon that could make that very difficult for that to sit comfortably on the field against Alchemy. And the other thing I like about Inner Focus Mienshao here is that it's immune to Intimidate, so it gives me a physical attacker that is not slowed down by Gyarados, Salamence, and Arcanine potentially pivoting around. I wasn't sure on the third move, but I've gone with Stone Edge because that can threaten all three of those. It does leave a little bit of a vulnerability against Tapu Bulu, and also Dragalge, but can't cover everything with this Pokemon. The speed outspeeds Salamence, I think, guaranteed, not Virizion. I think Virizion has a higher base speed than Mienshao, but it will be faster than Salamence, at least before max Airstream. Fake Out gives a little bit of support to create room for Alchemy to set up. Close Combat gives me an offensive threat into Magnezone to complement the Weavile and the Zygarde. I want to basically have at least... I basically want to have one of these Pokemon on the field whenever I can if I see Magnezone come to the set. And again, they might not bring Magnezone, but I think there's a good chance that they will because it matches up well into my Blastoise. And that's the biggest problem then for Alchemy. So I wanted to have lots of threats into that. Fake Out, Close Combat, Mienshao is yet another one. And then I have not yet brought Ally Switch this season. Ally Switch is, of course, very strong in Gen 8 because you can keep using it over and over. unlike in Gen 9 where it can fail on a second consecutive use. And I've been very reserved about using it. I haven't been bringing it all so far this season, so I think the ally switch might be a nice surprise to get me out of a tough spot if my opponent is otherwise kind of pinning Alchemy down. I don't think they'll see it coming, at least the first time. The item is the one thing I'm kind of iffy on. I didn't really, with the Focus Sash on Weavile, I didn't really have a good item in mind for Mian Xiao, so I went with the Koba Berry just to help it take a max airstream from whoever. But I am, as I talk through this, like I said, thinking about putting the Life Orb on Weavile to make the Ice Shard stronger, and then that would free up the Focus Sash for Mian Xiao, so I actually think I probably will make that change. I'll let you know in the battles if I do. And finally, Blastoise is here, but it's not the focal point of the team this time. Offensive Blastoise will surely make another appearance this season, but for now, let's put that bulk to use in more of a support role, and threaten the Gigantamax probably without actually using it. I do have the Gigantamax available, and I can click G-Max Cannonade off of Scald if I want, but this is just a very physically bulky Blastoise. Again, a lot of my opponent's threats are on the physical side, and for the special ones, the main one is Magnezone, which Blastoise just doesn't want to face anyway, and it's a lot less likely that I bring Blastoise to a game if they bring the Magnezone, and a lot more likely that I focus on any of the 3 Pokemon here that are largely meant to threaten it. So I don't know how likely Blastoise is to come to a game anyway, probably the least likely of the 6, but especially unlikely if I see Magnezone at preview. I have the Rindo Berry because other than Magnezone, their 2 biggest threats into Blastoise are Tapu Bulu and Virizion, so this can help Blastoise sit on the field against either of those, and with all this physical bulk investment, it really shouldn't take much damage from that first Wood Hammer or that first Leaf Blade. And then I have Fake Out again, so I have 2 Fake Out users. I probably don't bring both of them to the same game, but if I do, I can pivot them around and support Alchemy setup that way. I have Yawn to disrupt the opponent's Dynamax, or just force out a powerful, threatening attacker. Life Dew helps keep Alchemy a little bit healthier, along with the leftovers and potentially the G-Max Finale. And then I wanted Blastoise to have a water attack so that I do still have the Cannonade option. I actually thought about Hydro Cannon, just because it's the strongest one. But I think Scald makes more sense on this support-oriented role. It's reliable, consistent damage, and another way to weaken their physical attackers if I get the burn. And I'm probably not Gigantamaxing Blastoise either way, though I have the option. But I think this week I'm more flexible on what I can Dynamax. Alchemy is certainly a contender because it's meant to be the main win con, but I think Dynamaxing Zygarde is likely to happen in at least one game. And using its ground and steel moves to boost Alchemy. And again, I think I can be pretty flexible here. If I want to Dynamax Regieleki in a game or Weavile, I think that's totally reasonable as well. So this game is not centered on G-Max Blastoise. It is centered on Alchemy, but not necessarily G-Max Alchemy. But I am looking to pressure out the main threats, set Alchemy up, and win with those draining kisses against a team that has a lot of tanky Pokemon that hit reasonably hard, but will hopefully not be able to break through once Alchemy has some Acid Armors and Calm Minds. We'll just have to go to the battle and see how it works. Let's go. And I might as well say now, because I still have this open, I did just go ahead after I finished talking and make the change. Weavile now has the Life Orb, Mian Xiao has the Focus Sash, and since Pickpocket won't be useful, I've changed Weavile's ability to Pressure, so just keep those changes in mind. And here we go. I think I said this already, but it is Focus Sash, Mian Xiao, and Life Orb, Pressure Weavile. Good luck, have fun to my opponent, Shadow, original commissioner of the PDL. I think I forgot to shout that out this time. No longer the commissioner, had to step away from that, but still closely involved in the league. Magnezone is here, I saw that coming. Dragalge is not here, which is kind of nice. All 3 possible Intimidate Pokemon are here. There's no Tapu Bulu. Okay. Arcanine, Salamence, Virizion, Gyarados, Goodra, Magnezone. I kind of want to lead Alchemy Zygarde, but like there's a very good chance that an Intimidate comes out immediately at preview, right? Maybe Regieleki Zygarde is better, right? Because I can set screens, or I can Thunderbolt Gyarados. It is kind of weak into Magnezone, though. What I was thinking was Eleki Alchemy. I think I might have said Eleki Zygarde. I actually think Eleki Zygarde might be pretty good. Or I could do Eleki Mian Xiao. And then I can Fake Out or Stone Edge something. I don't know why you think you're gonna get roasted, Shadow. That's not really what we do here. Eleki Mian Xiao, I could Fake Out, Stone Edge, Close Combat. I actually think I like that lead with Zygarde and Alchemy in the back. I don't know. We'll see. It's Goodra Virizion. Okay. Magnezone not leading. Good to know potentially for game 2. Although the Goodra could have poison coverage very easily. Okay. Actually, what do I even do here? Both of these kind of wall Regieleki. Regieleki's not that good in this matchup, actually, apart from setting screens. And yet I've brought it. I think I'll just throw a Fake Out into the Virizion and a Light Screen. Scout what the Goodra does. Goodra Dynamaxes immediately. Pretty scary. Max Wormwind knocks and Shadow down to its Sash and gets an attack drop. I guess I'll just sack this and look to win the game with Zygarde. I mean, I can Dynamax Zygarde, right? And click Max Wormwind back into Goodra. Let's get some chip, and let's set Reflect. Oh, it's coaching! Uh-oh. Oh, I hope this works. I wonder how much my Max Wormwind is going to do. This is Life Orb Goodra. I don't have Max Guard because I'm running the Choice Band. Also, I don't get the Choice Band attack boost once I Dynamax. But I think it's worth. In fact, I think I'm going to Ally Switch and Max Wormwind here. That way, assuming the Goodra survives, it shouldn't be able to knock out my Zygarde. Yeah, that did a lot of damage, but less than I'd like. I get an attack drop into Zygarde that I'll never be able to get rid of now. It's Alchemy last. Their Dynamax is gone. I'm also lowering Virizion's attack, which is kind of nice. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to Max Wormwind. I could Max Steel Spike the Goodra and get a defense boost on Alchemy. Alright, let's do that. Max Steel Spike, Calm Mind. Yep, that still KOs. It's Leaf Blade into Zygarde. Doesn't do too much. I only have one turn left in my Dynamax. If we see Magnezone, I probably just click Max Quake into that, although, you know, they could have an Air Balloon. It's not super useful into my team, so it's not very likely, but they could. Or they could protect Magnezone here. It's maybe a little bit telegraphed, but actually I'm just going to aggressively target the Magnezone. And I'll even protect Alchemy this turn. They do just let me attack it. It has Sturdy. Okay. Sacred Sword into Alchemy. It ignores defense boosts, but it is resisted. And now I can 1,000 Arrows, or I can Outrage. But I want to get rid of Magnezone, so I'm going to 1,000 Arrows, even though this resists it. I also can... I'll go for another Calm Mind, but I mean, I can Drain and Kiss Virizion anytime. To protect Virizion, we take out Magnezone. Okay, that's a good turn. We'll see what the last Pokemon is in a moment. If it has Intimidate, then Zygarde goes down to... Yep, -2 attack, but I think Zygarde has basically done what I needed to do here. I can 1,000 Arrows. I'll go for an Acid Armor for a little bit more cover into these physical attackers. Alchemy's only at +1 defense right now. Hopefully this still does good damage to Arcanine, and then Virizion is pretty vulnerable to Draining Kiss, but we'll see. I don't know what I do in game 2. I mean, this turned out okay. Well, probably. I haven't won it yet. This will probably turn out okay, despite some awkwardness in the lead position. There's coaching again. Okay. Yeah, it's not really in my interest to let them keep doing that. I mean, Alchemy's a +3 defense now. I think I can just 1,000 Arrows and Draining Kiss Virizion. Alchemy will do more damage to that than to Arcanine anyway. 1,000 Arrows still does good damage to Arcanine. They can't really ignore it. And they don't get a KO back with these attacks into Reflect and +1 defense. Okay, so that should settle game 1. The question is, can I pull off something like that again in game 2? I also didn't like the Mienshao all that much. I mean, the Ally Switch was nice. But I think maybe I just lead... I do think the screens were good here. So I could lead Alecki Weavile in game 2. I should ready up. I could lead Alecki Weavile. I could lead Blastoise Weavile and not have the screens. But have Yawn. Yawn Pressure could be good, actually. right? Because I can set... I have the Rindo Berry. If it's a similar kind of lead, I have the Rindo Berry. I can set a Reflect in front of Virizion. I can Yawn the Goodra if they go for the same kind of thing again. They might not go for the same kind of thing again because it didn't work very well in Game 1. But I'm going to try that mix-up. I'm going to lead Blastoise instead of... Wait, I was thinking Blastoise Weavile, wasn't I? Blastoise Weavile could triple Axle. Weavile should be faster than Virizion. Yeah, it is. Guaranteed at least 1 point faster. Then triple Axle into that last lead would be really good. The only thing is if they lead like anything different. I'm gonna try it though. Blastoise, Weavile, and the same two Zygarde and Alchemy in the back. Virizion? Gyarados this time. Okay. No Intimidate on the Gyarados. Virizion can click Coaching. I think I just want to throw a big... triple Axle into that and Yawn the Gyarados. I think Gyarados might Dynamax turn 1 like the Goodra did last turn. It does, okay. This could be a huge Yawn coming out. Triple Axle hits once, twice, and twice is enough to KO. We get rid of the Virizion turn 1 this time. Max Airstream into Blastoise does a lot of damage, but less than half, and we make Gyarados drowsy now. Now I don't have Protect on Blastoise, I do have it on Weavile. And with Gyarados at +1 speed, I think I probably want to Protect Weavile here. I'm willing to sack Blastoise, I think. I'll throw a Scald at Magnezone, if they let me. Otherwise, I can get Zygarde in for free. They max Airstream into Weavile. This will boost Magnezone's speed, which isn't great for me. Electro Web doesn't knock out Blastoise, actually. So I do get the Scald into Magnezone. Gyarados takes a nap. I'm down to just go for damage here. I'll Brick Break and Scald into Magnezone. I guess if they take out Weavile, then at least they take the Scald damage again. But I guess really the thing is I'm waiting to safely get Zygarde back in. +2 speed Gyarados could be an issue, but I have at least stalled out the Dynamax successfully because it won't be able to attack on this last turn. See what my opponent comes up with here. Okay. Weavile's still faster than Magnezone. Doesn't quite KO with the Brick Break. Electro Web KOs Blastoise. Okay. I'll just go Zygarde here. If Weavile's still faster than Magnezone, or it was before, then that Electro Web, then Zygarde will be as well. So just 1,000 arrows. There could be ice coverage on the Gyarados, but I think if I remove the Magnezone, I'm okay. And Gyarados also could stay asleep. I'll just click Triple Axle into it. I guess if they protect Magnezone and Gyarados wakes up and KOs Zygarde with Ice Fang, but none of that happens. So I don't have to worry about it. 1,000 arrows does a lot of damage to Gyarados. Triple Axle KOs with 2 hits, and their last Pokemon is... Arcanine. We take the Intimidates. I think I'm okay with that. Actually, I might as well switch to Alchemy here, preserve the Zygarde, and then I can Dynamax it and win the game with it. I'll just click an Ice Shard into Arcanine here. Okay, they KO Weavile. But now I get Zygarde without the Intimidate drop. I don't get to show the G-Max Alchemy, but that's fine. I'll just click Acid Armor and Max Quake. Zygarde just knocks it out. Alright, GG's, Shadow. Always a pleasure. Feels good to get back in the win column after a couple of rough weeks there. I was not playing super well. Well, I mean, I had some close games the last couple weeks and a few things that just didn't break my way, but also some misplays. I don't know that I played this one optimally, but it does feel like I got a little bit back on track. And a tough couple weeks coming up. I'll say that. I'm going to start building for my next matchup, and I'm pretty worried, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I can get replays. That's no problem. Yeah, stay tuned for the second half of this PDL season. It's Maybe I might be getting a better feel for this team. I hope so, because it's not going to be the easiest thing from here, but it should be a lot of fun for sure. No question about that.